Imagine an experiment, not in a lab, but in real life. One that begins in the late 1930s, just as the world is on the brink of change. The question at the time is simple, yet profound. What makes a good life? Hi, my name is Sarah Lopez Madrigal. I'm founder and executive director of We Belong PDX. This is episode 1 of a 6-week series on the power and importance of social connection. In each 3 to 5 minute episode, I'll share about a study, give a tip, and a challenge to improve our level of social connectedness as a community. A group of researchers at Harvard set out to find the answer to the question, what makes a good life? They wanted to understand what leads to healthy aging and life satisfaction. The study began with 2 very different groups of young men. The first group were all sophomores at Harvard College, a bright and privileged bunch, as you might imagine, who would go on to be doctors, lawyers, and even a U.S. president. The second group were boys from Boston's poorest neighborhoods, chosen specifically because they were growing up in incredibly disadvantaged situations. With a total of 724 participants, the researchers had a hunch. Like most people at the time, they believed the secret to happiness and success lay in fame, wealth, and professional achievement. And so they began to collect data. They conducted extensive interviews with the young men and their families. They took blood samples, brain scans, they did genetic testing, and even spoke in depth with their partners. The idea was to follow them through every stage of life, tracking their careers, their health, their triumphs, and their tragedies. This was no short-term project. It spanned decades. The original researchers passed the torch to a new generation, who passed it on again. Unbelievably, the study is now in its 4th generation. For over 80 years, the data was collected. And when the researchers finally began to analyze all those blood tests, brain scans, life stories, they discovered something astonishing. Something that went against everything they initially believed. Turns out, the one thing that best predicted a long, healthy, and happy life was not social class, wealth, or high IQ. It wasn't a prestigious career or a fat bank account. The single greatest predictor was, in fact, the health of their relationships. The men who were most connected to others, to family, to friends, to community, those were the ones who thrived. The men who were lonely and isolated saw their physical and mental health decline much earlier in life. The study proves that the relationships we build are our greatest investment. They're the single greatest protective factor we have against life's hardships. Quick tip for the day, take 60 seconds to reach out to somebody you haven't connected with in a while. No agenda, no big ask, just a quick text to say, thinking of you, or a call to say hello. It's a small investment with a huge relational return. Your challenge for the week? Mentally or even on paper, map out your personal circle of support. Think of the 5 people you'd call in a moment of need or celebration. The study shows these are the people who truly sustain us. Then, this week, commit to a meaningful conversation with just one of them. Share something personal or simply ask them how they're doing and really listen to their answer. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you found this educational and helpful, we encourage you to please pass it along to a friend. And we hope you'll tune in again next week. Have a great week.